Princess Alara stood on the balcony of the royal palace, her eyes scanning the endless expanse of Lumeria's capital. The city below gleamed with silver towers and crystal domes, lights twinkling like stars even in daylight. Ships moved gracefully through the sky lanes, carrying goods, diplomats, and occasionally royalty. At 22, Alara was poised to inherit the throne, but the weight of that responsibility pressed on her like an invisible chain. Every decision she made, every word she spoke, had consequences not only for herself, but for the millions who lived under Lumeria's rule. She had spent her entire life preparing for this moment, yet she felt more uncertain than ever. Alara had been trained in the arts of diplomacy, combat strategy, and interstellar law since childhood. Tutors, advisors, and mentors had shaped her into a perfect heir. But no one had prepared her for the loneliness that came with it. Friends were few, and trust was scarce. Nobles whispered behind closed doors, and allies sometimes plotted in the shadows. The throne was not just a seat of power, it was a cage. Gilded but confining as she watched a fleet of royal escort ships glide past the palace. Alara's mind wandered to Kale. He was a human engineer from the frontier colonies, a world away from the polished courts of Lumeria. He was not a noble, nor was he part of any political scheme. Kale was simply brilliant and devoted to his work designing terraforming technology that could save struggling human colonies. Alara had first met him during a mission to inspect the newly colonized planet. His passion for helping humanity had struck her immediately, and she had been drawn to his simplicity, honesty, and courage. Their encounters had been brief at first, formal and professional. But over time, Alara found herself seeking Kel's company. He challenged her in ways no noble ever could. He spoke of real problems, of human lives at stake, of hope and resilience. He reminded her of the world beyond the palace walls, a world that was vibrant, unpredictable, and full of possibility. Their conversations had grown longer, more personal, and quietly affectionate. In his presence, Alara felt something she had never felt in the halls of royalty: freedom. Yet, the freedom was dangerous. Alara knew that any attachment to a human, especially a human from the outer colonies, could be used against her. Court politics were ruthless, and alliances depended on appearances, not feelings. Her father, King Rethys, had made it clear that her marriage would be a political tool, not a personal choice. The Xylar Confederacy, a humanoid alien race with immense military power, had extended an alliance that required her hand in marriage. The prince chosen for her was skilled, charismatic, and loyal to his people. But Alara could not feel anything for him. She could not imagine spending her life bound by duty alone, without love or connection. The thought of the Xylar prince made her chest tighten. She had never wanted to rebel, yet she could not imagine surrendering her heart. Love, she realized, had become her most dangerous weapon. It gave her strength, but it also threatened everything she had been taught to protect. That evening, the royal court held a gala in the floating gardens of Varelia, a city suspended high above Lumeria's surface. The gardens were a marvel of engineering and beauty, with plants from dozens of planets growing in harmony, glowing softly under artificial sunlight. Alara arrived in her ceremonial robes, every movement watched by countless eyes. Diplomats, nobles, and alien emissaries mingled, their conversations a mix of politics, flattery, and veiled threats. Kale was there too, though not as a guest of the court. He had been invited to demonstrate a new terraforming device, a project that could transform barren planets into habitable worlds. Alara sought him out, her heart quickening as she found him in a quiet corner, adjusting his device with meticulous care. He looked up and smiled, the tension in his shoulders easing when he saw her. "Princess," he said softly, almost afraid someone would overhear. "I didn't expect to see you here." Alara returned his smile, though it was tinged with anxiety. "I wanted to see it for myself, your work. It's extraordinary, Kale. You're changing lives." He shrugged, brushing a strand of dark hair from his face. "I'm just doing what needs to be done. People survive because someone cares enough to help." She studied him, her chest tightening. How could she choose between the world she was born to lead and the man who made her feel alive? The gala buzzed around them, but in that moment, the palace, the court, and even the future felt distant. All that mattered was the quiet understanding between them, but reality intruded swiftly. A voice echoed from the balcony nearby King Rethys, tall and commanding, his presence radiating authority. Alara turned, her heart sinking. He had arrived unexpectedly, flanked by advisors and the Xylar emissary. The prince's gaze met hers briefly, polite and unreadable. Alara felt the invisible chains tighten. "Alara," her father said, his tone firm, almost cold. "You seem distracted. I trust you understand the importance of this alliance?" "Yes, father," she replied, though her mind raced. Every word, every gesture had to be perfect. One misstep could destroy everything, not just her reputation, but the fragile hope for peace across the galaxy. King Rethys's eyes lingered on her, sharp and searching. "Your duty is clear. Lumeria depends on you. Your personal feelings must never interfere with your responsibilities." Alara bowed her head, hiding the turmoil in her heart. Kale watched silently, his expression a mixture of concern and understanding. He knew what was at stake. Later, after the gala, Alara wandered the gardens alone. The soft glow of alien flora illuminated her path, and she allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. She remembered her childhood, lessons learned in gilded halls, and the expectations placed upon her. She remembered the first time she had touched Kel's hand, how ordinary it felt, how natural, and how terrifyingly forbidden. She sat on a stone bench, the cool metal beneath her fingers grounding her. If she followed the path expected of her, she would secure alliances, protect her people, and ascend to a throne of unimaginable power. But her heart would remain empty, bound by duty and decorum, and yet the thought of a life with Kale, simple and unpredictable, filled her with warmth. She imagined traveling to the outer colonies, seeing the worlds he had helped shape, working alongside him to bring hope where there was none. That life was dangerous, yes, but it was alive, and it was real. Alara closed her eyes, letting the night breeze brush her face. She knew the choice was coming soon. The court, the king, and the Xylar alliance would not wait. Every moment she hesitated was a moment closer to a decision she could never undo. In that quiet moment, she made a silent vow. Whatever the crown demanded, whatever the court expected, she would not forget the human who had awakened her heart. And if she could find a way to lead with both strength and compassion, she would not just for herself, but for all of humanity. The stars above shimmered, reflecting in her eyes. Lumeria, vast and ancient, waited for her to choose. But so did Kale, and in her heart, Princess Alara felt a spark of courage she had never known. The future was uncertain, dangerous, and filled with impossible choices, but it was hers to shape. And for the first time in her life, she allowed herself to hope that love and duty might not be enemies after all. Alara could not forget Kale, even as she returned to her duties at the palace. The memory of his quiet smile and earnest eyes followed her. Every council meeting, every diplomatic discussion, felt hollow compared to the world he had shown her. Yet the palace, with its grand halls and golden chandeliers, demanded her attention. Duties piled up, advising on trade routes, reviewing defense plans, and learning about the alien politics that shaped the galaxy. Still, her thoughts wandered to the frontier planets, where humans struggled to survive, relying on technology, courage, and hope to endure. Kel's colony had sent a message, asking for advice on improving energy efficiency in their settlements. Alara stayed late in the royal archives, reading reports and blueprints, thinking about ways she could help without drawing the attention of her father or the Xylar emissaries. The princess knew that even small support could make a significant difference. For those living on the edge of the empire, every planet saved, every colony strengthened, was a victory for humanity, and she wanted to be a part of it. One evening, under the pretense of inspecting a new orbital trade hub, Alara arranged to meet Kale on one of the frontier colonies. She traveled in secret aboard a small, unmarked ship, leaving the glittering palace behind for the rough, dusty world below. As the ship touched down, she felt a mixture of fear and excitement. This was not her world, but it was real, tangible, and alive. Humans greeted her cautiously, aware that the heir of Lemuria had arrived. Yet unsure what it meant for them, Kale met her outside the main settlement. His expression shifted from surprise to cautious joy. "Princess Alara," he said softly, bowing slightly. "You shouldn't have come. It's dangerous." Alara shook her head, her eyes firm. "I had to see it for myself. I cannot sit in the palace and ignore this, Kale. Your work, it matters, and I want to understand it." He studied her for a moment, and then, with a faint smile, he nodded. "Then let me show you." They walked together through the settlement. Alara saw children playing near newly built water stations, workers repairing energy grids, and fields of newly terraformed soil ready to grow food. Kale explained each innovation, how every device, every construction, had been designed to survive harsh conditions. His pride was quiet but evident. Alara felt a surge of admiration. This was not politics or ceremony, but life itself. Crafted by ingenuity and care. At night, they stood on a hill overlooking the colony. The twin moons reflected off the rough terrain, casting silver light over the small buildings. Alara felt a freedom she had never known in the palace. Here, there were no spies, no advisors, no expectations. Only the people and their lives, their struggles, and their hopes. "Kale," she said quietly, "why do you do this? Why devote yourself to so much danger and work for people who may never even know your name?" He looked at her, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "Because someone has to. Someone has to care. Someone has to believe that humans can survive, no matter what aliens or empires say. I may not be royalty, but I can help. I can make a difference." Alara's heart ached. How simple his truth was, yet how powerful. She realized that leadership did not always require crowns or ceremonies. It required courage, compassion, and action. And Kale had all of it, but even as she stayed among humans, she could not ignore the threat waiting in the shadows. The Xylar emissary had arrived on the colony a week earlier, asking questions about her movements, probing for weaknesses. Rumors of discontent in the frontier colonies had reached Lemuria, and some officials were already questioning the loyalty of the princess. Every choice she made had consequences far beyond her own life. One morning, while reviewing energy grids with Kale, Alara received an encrypted message from the palace. Her father's words were sharp and formal. "Your actions are being monitored. Remember your duty. The Xylar Alliance cannot wait forever. Decide before it is too late." Alara folded the message, her hands trembling. The crown demanded obedience, but her heart called for action. She realized she could not remain passive. She had to find a way to protect the colonies, support Kale, and still navigate the treacherous waters of palace politics. That afternoon, she convened a secret meeting with colony leaders. They gathered in the central hall, their faces a mix of skepticism and hope. Alara spoke with quiet determination. She explained that Lumeria's strength was not in alien alliances alone, but in the unity and resilience of its people. She outlined ways to improve infrastructure, secure trade routes, and protect the settlements from threats. Kale added technical details, showing innovations that could double energy output and purify water more efficiently. The leaders were impressed. For the first time, many felt that someone in power truly cared about their lives, not just their allegiance. Alara's presence, combined with Kel's knowledge, gave them hope. And for Alara, the experience reinforced a truth she could not ignore. Humanity's potential was limitless. When given opportunity and guidance, yet danger remained. Word of her actions inevitably reached the palace. One night, Alara and Kale were startled by the sudden arrival of a security vessel. Agents from Lemuria demanded that she return immediately. Kale urged her to comply, knowing the consequences could be severe. "I cannot stay hidden forever," Alara said firmly, "and I cannot abandon them. Not now." They worked quickly to secure the colony's most vital systems, ensuring that even if she were taken away, the settlements would continue to thrive. When the agents arrived, Alara surrendered without resistance, confident that her decisions had strengthened the colonies. Even in her absence, back aboard the palace transport, she stared out at the stars, feeling the weight of duty pressing down once again. Kel's image lingered in her mind. She wondered how she could reconcile the life she was born to with the world she now understood. Could she lead and still love? Could she protect humanity and remain loyal to her crown? Her father awaited her at the palace, his presence commanding and imposing. "Alara," King Rethys said, his voice steady but firm, "your actions on the frontier were bold, but reckless. You must understand that your personal attachments cannot guide decisions that affect an entire empire. The Xylar Alliance will not wait. You must choose the throne or other distractions." Alara felt her heart tighten. She wanted to argue, to tell him that Kale and the colonies were not distractions but her purpose. Yet she also knew that words alone would not protect them. She bowed, hiding the storm inside. "I understand, father." But inside, she was determined. She would not abandon the human she had come to care for, nor the man who had shown her what true courage and love meant. She would find a way to honor both her duty and her heart. That night, alone in her chambers, Alara stared at the city lights below. Lemuria was magnificent, powerful, and ancient, but the frontier planets had given her perspective. Strength was not only measured in armies or alliances, it was measured in the ability to inspire, to protect, and to act when others could not. And she would need every ounce of that strength to face the coming challenges. She made a silent promise to herself, no matter what the palace demanded, no matter the threats from aliens or advisors, she would fight for humanity, for the colonies, and for Kale. Her love was no longer a secret indulgence. It had become a guiding force, and she would not abandon it, not for the throne, not for fear, not for anyone. The future was uncertain, and the path ahead was dangerous. But for the first time, Alara felt the spark of purpose ignite within her. The princess who had once lived only for duty was beginning to live for something greater: love, humanity, and the possibility of a future shaped not by fear, but by hope. Alara returned to the palace under watchful eyes, but her thoughts remained with Kale and the frontier colonies. Every report she read reminded her of the struggles of human settlements, and she could not ignore them. Life in the palace, with its golden walls and polished floors, now seemed distant and unreal. She had tasted the reality of the frontier, seen people who relied on courage and ingenuity rather than wealth and influence. That reality had changed her, and she knew she could not simply return to the life of ceremonial duty, yet danger was closing in. The palace was full of whispers. Some nobles viewed her recent trips and secret meetings with suspicion. They feared that her compassion for humans could weaken Lumeria's position, especially in the eyes of the Xylar Alliance. Others envied her position and sought to use her emotions against her. Every advisor, every diplomat, seemed to watch her with a mix of expectation and judgment. Alara felt the first real weight of betrayal, not from enemies, but from those she had trusted. Kel's name lingered in every conversation she had with advisors, as if mentioning him was a crime. One evening, her most trusted aide, Lord Varys, approached her in the private study. His face was serious, but there was hesitation in his voice. "Princess, there are rumors. The Xylar emissary has been asking questions about your trips to the colonies. They know about your interactions with Kale. This could become dangerous." Alara's chest tightened. "I cannot abandon him, Varys, and I cannot ignore the colonies. If we fail them, humanity suffers." Varys sighed. "I understand your intentions, but politics do not forgive such choices. If your father learns that you are defying his orders, consequences will be severe. You must be careful." She nodded, though her mind was already made up. Careful was not enough. She needed action, and she needed allies who believed in her vision. Over the next weeks, she began reaching out to leaders of human colonies across the outer systems. She used encrypted channels hidden from palace monitors to discuss infrastructure, defense, and trade. Her messages carried not just instructions but encouragement, a reminder that humanity could endure and thrive even under the threat of alien pressure. Kale worked alongside her, refining his technology and providing data that proved the colonies could become self-sufficient. Together, they created a blueprint for a network of human settlements capable of defending themselves. managing resources, and maintaining independence. Their work was meticulous, innovative, and daring. But as their influence grew, so did the risks. One evening, while Laura reviewed a set of blueprints in her private chambers, she noticed a subtle shift in the palace security. Certain attendants avoided her gaze, and whispers followed her as she walked the halls. A message arrived, encrypted but unmistakable. Your loyalty is questioned. Your actions are noted. Cease or face consequences. Alara folded the message carefully, her resolve hardening. She would not give in. Humanity deserved a voice, and Kale deserved protection. She would find a way to protect both. Soon, betrayal struck closer than she had anticipated. One of her closest confidants, a young advisor named Selen, approached the king under the guise of loyalty. Selen's words were measured but damning. Princess Alara has been acting without approval. She has met with human engineers, provided them resources, and influenced colonies in ways that contradict the crown's interests. King Rethus's eyes narrowed. The words were not surprising, but their source stung. He had trusted Selen, and now that trust was shattered. Summoning Alara to the council chamber, he confronted her. The room was cold, the walls lined with guards, advisors, and the Xyler emissary, whose presence made the air tense. Alara, the king said, his voice steady but severe. You have overstepped. Your actions jeopardize our alliances and the stability of the empire. Explain yourself. Alara met his gaze, her heart pounding. Father, I'm not acting against the empire. I am ensuring that humanity thrives. The colonies need guidance and support. Kel's work is essential to their survival. The Xyler emissary's eyes gleamed with curiosity and warning. Princess, loyalty to your people is admirable, but loyalty to your own desires can have consequences. Lumeria cannot afford to appear divided. You must comply. Alara's hands clenched at her sides. I am not choosing desire over duty. I am choosing life for the humans who rely on us, life for the future we can build together. The council chamber erupted in murmurs, some in agreement, others in disbelief. King Rethus's face darkened. You leave me no choice. You are hereby confined to the outer station of Lumeria, under strict supervision. You will remain there until I determine your next course of action. No communication outside this station is permitted. Alara's heart sank, but she did not resist. She understood the severity of the punishment. Yet even in exile, she felt a spark of hope. If she could inspire the humans, if she could guide them even from a distance, her mission would continue. She would not surrender her purpose. The journey to the space station was long and tense. Alara was accompanied by guards who kept her under watchful eyes, yet she remained calm. In her mind, she plotted ways to continue her work, to maintain contact with Kale and the colonies. Without detection, every report she received, every blueprint she studied, became a weapon of survival and progress. Once at the station, Alara adapted quickly. The space station was stark, functional, and far from the elegance of the palace. But it offered something else, perspective. From her window, she could see the vastness of space, countless stars twinkling like possibilities. She realized that leadership was not about grandeur or obedience, it was about vision, courage, and the ability to act under pressure. Kale visited whenever he could, using stealth ships and hidden channels. Each meeting reinforced her resolve. Together, they analyzed data from colonies, improved energy systems, and planned defenses. Alara shared insights from the palace, diplomatic knowledge, strategy, and access to resources, while Kale provided technical innovation and first-hand experience. Their partnership became a balance of intellect and action, vision and execution. Despite the danger, Alara found moments of quiet joy. She and Kale spoke of the future they could build, of planets transformed and colonies thriving. She saw children laughing in newly built settlements, workers smiling at a task completed successfully, and communities growing stronger. These were victories, quiet but profound, and they reminded her why she refused to bow entirely to the crown's demands. But even as they worked, Alara knew the threat was never far. The Xyler emissary remained vigilant, and rumors of rebellion within the palace grew. Some nobles saw her exile as an opportunity to remove her permanently from power, fearing that her human-centered approach could disrupt centuries of alliances. Every decision, every word, carried weight, and one mistake could destroy everything she had fought for. Alara spent long hours reflecting on her choices. Could she balance her heart and duty? Could she protect Kale and the colonies while maintaining her position as heir? Each night, she stared out into the endless void of space and reminded herself why she had chosen this path. She was not rebelling out of selfishness or defiance. She was leading because she cared and because she believed in humanity's potential. As weeks turned into months, Alara's reputation among the colonies grew. Messages of gratitude, reports of success, and requests for guidance flowed in. Her influence extended far beyond the space station, and though her father and the Xylar emissary tried to limit her power, her determination could not be stopped. Alara had become more than a princess. She was a symbol of hope, resilience, and the courage to choose humanity over mere protocol. Even in confinement, she remained defiant but measured. She knew that brute rebellion would fail. She needed strategy, patience, and the cooperation of those who shared her vision. Kale remained her partner in this endeavor, his loyalty unwavering, his innovation constant. Together, they built not only a network of thriving colonies, but a blueprint for a future where humans could rise on their own terms. And so, even as the palace plotted and whispers of betrayal continued, Alara's resolve only grew stronger. She had discovered that leadership was not given, it was earned through action, sacrifice, and unwavering dedication. She would face the coming trials with courage, ingenuity, and the knowledge that she was not alone. Kale and humanity stood beside her, and together, they were beginning to prove that the human spirit could overcome even the most impossible challenges. The exile that was meant to diminish her only strengthened her purpose. Princess Alara, once confined by golden walls and expectations, was now defined by courage, love, and vision. And as she looked out at the stars, she knew the next steps would be the most dangerous and the most important of her life. Life on the outer space station was harsh, but Alara adapted quickly. The sterile walls, narrow corridors, and the constant hum of engines were a far cry from the gilded halls of the palace. Yet she found purpose in every task. She studied the colony's data, reviewed Kel's technological designs, and communicated with leaders across the frontier planets. Though confined, she refused to feel powerless. Every choice she made could help humanity thrive, and she embraced that responsibility with fierce determination. Kale had become more than a partner, he was her anchor in a turbulent universe. Together, they planned ways to strengthen human settlements, make colonies self-sufficient, and improve security without drawing the attention of the Xylar Alliance or the palace. Alara learned to trust her instincts, combining her royal knowledge with Kel's practical expertise. Their bond deepened, not just through shared work, but through the quiet understanding that they were fighting for a future worth living. One morning, Alara convened a secret virtual meeting with leaders of the human colonies. The holographic images of distant planets floated around the room. Faces she had never met before looked back at her heirs, engineers, commanders, and educators. All were weary from years of neglect, and yet, when Alara spoke, there was a spark of hope in their eyes. "We do not have the luxury of waiting for someone else to save us," she said firmly. "We are humanity, and we have the strength to build our own future. Kel's technology can help, but it is your courage, your unity, that will truly protect us. Together, we can transform our settlements into thriving worlds." A commander from the frontier colonies spoke up. "Princess Alara, we have followed your guidance before, but the Xylar Alliance grows impatient. If they perceive defiance, they may act against us. How can we ensure safety?" Alara smiled, though her mind raced. "Safety comes not from submission, but from preparation. We will strengthen defenses, secure supply routes, and create alliances with nearby colonies. The Xylar Alliance may have power, but they do not have the unity we are building. Strength in numbers, strategy, and innovation will protect us." The meeting continued for hours, with Alara and Kale guiding the leaders through plans for energy distribution, water purification, communication networks, and defensive strategies. Each step was carefully designed to minimize risk while maximizing independence. By the time the meeting ended, the leaders felt empowered, inspired, and ready to act. But Alara knew the palace would not remain idle. Her father and the Xylar emissary were watching, seeking any excuse to undermine her influence. One evening, she received a direct message from the king. Alara, cease your activities immediately. You overstep your authority. The Xylar Alliance demands compliance, not rebellion. Alara's hands clenched, but she did not waver. I cannot stop helping humanity. The colonies cannot wait for approval from distant thrones. Action is necessary, and I will act. Kale looked at her with concern. We must be careful. One mistake, and they could remove you permanently. She shook her head. No, humanity deserves a chance, and I cannot abandon it. I will find a way to lead without surrendering our future. Over the next weeks, Alara and Kale implemented the first phase of their plan. They coordinated the installation of advanced energy grids on several frontier planets, allowing settlements to generate power independently. Water filtration systems were upgraded, and food production increased through newly engineered crops that could survive harsh conditions. Communications networks were expanded, allowing colonies to share information and resources efficiently. As these improvements took effect, reports of prosperity began reaching the space station. Settlements once struggling to survive were now thriving. The people's morale improved, and small networks of cooperation formed between planets. Alara's influence extended far beyond what she had imagined. Even from exile, she was shaping the future. But progress attracted attention. The Xylar emissary arrived on the outer edge of Lumeria's space, monitoring the frontier planets. Intelligence reports indicated that some colonies were starting to resist alien interference. Inspired by Alara's leadership, the Xylar Alliance issued warnings, demanding compliance and threatening retaliation. Alara knew confrontation was inevitable, but instead of fearing it, she prepared. Using her knowledge of diplomacy, she sent carefully worded messages to the Xylar leaders, proposing a new alliance based on mutual respect and cooperation, rather than domination. Kale supported her, demonstrating the colony's technological advancements as proof that humanity could contribute meaningfully to interstellar collaboration. Meanwhile, unrest in the palace grew. Some nobles began to question King Rethus's decisions, arguing that Alara's vision might be the key to maintaining Lumeria's influence. The king, however, remained rigid, unwilling to accept that his daughter could lead in ways he had not imagined. He tightened restrictions on her communications, hoping to force her into submission. Alara, however, was prepared for such moves. She had already established hidden channels, secure communication links, and contingency plans to protect the colonies. Each step was calculated, minimizing exposure while maximizing impact. Her exile, intended as punishment, had become an opportunity to demonstrate true leadership. One day, while reviewing plans for a new energy grid, Alara received a message from Kale. The colonies are ready. Your leadership has inspired them. We can move forward with Phase 2. Are you ready? Alara smiled, a spark of determination lighting her eyes. Yes, humanity will not wait. We move forward together. Phase 2 involved uniting the frontier colonies into a cooperative alliance, sharing resources, knowledge, and defense strategies. Alara and Kale coordinated meetings, training programs, and shared technology. Colonies once isolated and struggling began to see themselves as part of a larger community. The sense of unity brought strength, resilience, and hope. As the alliance grew, so did Alara's reputation. Messages of gratitude poured in from every corner of the frontier. Children wrote letters thanking her for the new schools, engineers praised her guidance, and community leaders acknowledged her vision. Even small acts, like repairing a water pump or teaching new farming techniques, carried weight and impact. Alara realized that leadership was not measured by titles or crowns alone, but by the lives she touched and the futures she could change. However, the Xylar Alliance's patience was wearing thin. Their emissary issued an ultimatum: compliance or conflict. Alara knew that open confrontation could devastate the colonies. But she also knew that submission would betray everything she had built. It was a delicate balance, and she needed every ounce of wisdom and courage to navigate it. In the quiet moments, she reflected on her journey. From a princess confined by tradition and expectation, she had become a leader who inspired hope and action. Kale had been her partner, her confidant, and her anchor. Together, they had transformed not only the colonies, but also her understanding of what leadership truly meant. The day came when Alara decided to confront the challenge directly. She transmitted a detailed message to the Xylar emissary, outlining the achievements of the human colonies, the cooperative alliance, and the potential for a mutually beneficial partnership. Her tone was firm but respectful, emphasizing humanity's capability while seeking peaceful collaboration. Within hours, responses began to arrive. Some Xylar leaders were skeptical, while others expressed cautious interest. The colonies remained vigilant, ready to defend themselves if necessary. But inspired by Alara's leadership, she had created a position of strength without bloodshed, showing that courage, intelligence, and unity could achieve what force alone could not. Alara knew the coming days would test her resolve. The palace, the Xylar alliance, and even descending colonies could challenge her plans at any moment. But she also knew that she had already proven something remarkable. Humanity could rise, even under pressure, and love and loyalty could coexist with leadership. As she looked out over the frontier planets from the space station, she felt a sense of accomplishment, tempered with anticipation. The next challenges would be greater, the threats more direct. But she was no longer the uncertain princess who had first left the palace. She was a leader in her own right, guiding humanity toward a future defined by strength, unity, and hope. And beside her, Kale stood ready, their partnership a testament to what could be achieved when courage met vision. Together, they had begun to reshape the galaxy, proving that humanity's potential was limitless when guided by determination, compassion, and love. The day had arrived. Alara left the space station and traveled toward Lumeria's capital, not as a powerless exile, but as a leader of a united human alliance. The frontier colonies had grown strong under her guidance, and Kel's innovations had transformed entire planets into self-sufficient settlements. The humans she had inspired were no longer scattered and vulnerable. They were organized, resilient, and determined. She was returning to the palace with a purpose far greater than her own freedom, to show that humanity could stand on its own, and to prove that love and leadership could coexist. The palace was imposing as always, gleaming under the twin suns. Guards lined the entrance, their faces stern, but Alara walked with confidence. Her presence was no longer that of a hesitant princess. She radiated authority, strength, and determination. She had spent months preparing for this moment, and she would not falter. Inside, the council chamber was crowded with nobles, advisors, and the Xylar emissary. Whispers ran through the room, but when Alara entered, the conversation stilled. Eyes turned to the young woman who had dared to defy expectations, who had united humans in a bold and unprecedented way. She met her father's gaze first, seeing both concern and frustration there. Then she looked at the Xylar emissary, who studied her with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Alara, King Rethys said, his voice steady but controlled, "You have returned. Explain yourself. What has become of your actions in exile?" Alara took a deep breath and began. "Father, noble advisors, and honored emissary, I return not to challenge the throne, but to demonstrate the strength of humanity. During my time away, I have worked alongside Kale and the frontier colonies to build a network of settlements, capable of sustaining themselves, sharing resources, and defending their people. Humanity can contribute to the galaxy not through submission, but through innovation, cooperation, and courage." She projected holographic maps across the room, showing the network of colonies, energy grids, water systems, and communication channels. The images highlighted thriving settlements, organized defenses, and efficient infrastructure. The room was silent as the evidence unfolded before them. The Xylar emissary's expression shifted. He leaned forward, speaking carefully. "Princess Alara, this is impressive. Your colonies have achieved more than many might have believed possible. But independence brings risk. How do you propose we maintain peace while allowing humanity such freedom? Alara's gaze did not waver. Peace is achieved not through domination, but through mutual respect and cooperation. Humanity seeks partnership, not subjugation. The colonies are ready to work with Lemuria and the Xylar Alliance as equals, contributing knowledge, innovation, and loyalty. But they will not be treated as subjects to be commanded. The nobles murmured among themselves, some skeptical, others intrigued. A few whispered that perhaps the princess had been right all along. King Rethys remained silent, weighing her words carefully. Alara continued, I have seen what humans can achieve when given responsibility and trust. Their resilience, ingenuity, and courage are unmatched. If we allow them to thrive, all of Lemuria benefits. If we insist on control through fear, we risk rebellion, resentment, and wasted potential. I offer a new path, one of respect, cooperation, and shared success. The room fell into silence. The Xylar emissary exchanged a glance with the king, then spoke. Princess, you have presented your case well. Your colonies are indeed capable, and your leadership is evident. I will relay your proposal to my superiors. However, a demonstration of loyalty is required before a full agreement can be reached. Alara nodded, prepared for any challenge. I am ready to prove humanity's strength, without endangering our people unnecessarily. We will demonstrate that unity, courage, and innovation can achieve what force alone cannot. Over the next several days, Alara coordinated with the frontier colonies to stage controlled simulations of defense, resource management, and rapid response to potential threats. The palace watched as settlements responded efficiently to simulated attacks, repaired infrastructure, and maintained communication lines. The Xylar emissary observed carefully, noting every detail. While the palace advisors whispered in astonishment, Kale stood beside Alara throughout the process, offering technical support, encouragement, and reassurance. Their partnership was seamless, a balance of vision, intellect, and practical skill. Together, they showcased what humanity could achieve when trusted and guided wisely. When the final simulation ended successfully, the chamber erupted in applause, some hesitant, others genuine. King Rethys studied his daughter, pride and relief evident in his eyes. Alara, he said slowly, you have exceeded my expectations. You have shown wisdom, courage, and leadership beyond your years. Perhaps I underestimated the strength of your vision and the strength of humanity. Alara bowed her head respectfully. Thank you, Father. I only sought to show what is possible when we act with purpose, compassion, and unity. The Xylar emissary spoke next, his tone measured. Princess Alara, your actions demonstrate that humanity can be a partner, not a subject. I will report these results to my leaders. A new treaty may be possible, one that recognizes human independence and contribution. While maintaining alliances, Alara allowed herself a small smile. The risk had been great, but the reward was immense. Humanity's place in the galaxy was no longer defined by fear or submission, but by courage, ingenuity, and leadership. After the council meeting, Alara met with Kale in private. We did it, she said quietly, relief and joy in her voice. The colonies are safe, and humanity's future is secure. Kale smiled, taking her hand. You did it, Alara. Your leadership, your vision. It inspired everyone. I only helped guide the way. She shook her head, laughing softly. We did it together. You showed me what courage truly means. As days passed, Alara worked tirelessly to implement the new treaty. Human colonies were officially recognized as autonomous allies, contributing knowledge, technology, and resources to the larger interstellar community. The Xylar Alliance agreed to cooperate, and Lemuria embraced a new vision of leadership that valued humanity's potential. The palace, once a place of confinement and expectation, became a hub of cooperation and innovation. Alara introduced programs to mentor future leaders, improve education across colonies, and strengthen defenses without oppression. Kale continued his work, developing technology to sustain human settlements and enhance communication and trade. Amid the accomplishments, Alara allowed herself to embrace her personal happiness. Kale was not just a partner in leadership, but in life. Their love, once quiet and secret, was now acknowledged and celebrated. The princess who had once feared choosing between the throne, in her heart now realized that love and duty could coexist, each enhancing the other. In the quiet moments, Alara reflected on her journey. From a young princess confined by tradition and expectation, she had grown into a leader who inspired hope and action. She had faced betrayal, exile, and the threat of war, yet she emerged stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Her choices had not only shaped the fate of humanity, but had also defined her as a ruler, a partner, and a protector. The galaxy had witnessed humanity's resilience, creativity, and determination. Alara knew the challenges would never truly end, but she also knew that humans, when united and guided by purpose, could face any obstacle. And she, as princess and leader, would continue to stand with them, guiding, protecting, and inspiring. On a bright morning, she stood once more on the palace balcony, looking out at Lumeria and the frontier colonies beyond. Ships moved through the sky lanes, carrying people, resources, and hope. Gale joined her, placing a hand over hers, a quiet affirmation of partnership and love together. He said softly, "We've done something remarkable." Alara nodded, feeling the weight of the crown now lighter than ever. Together, we can achieve anything. Humanity will thrive, not because of power alone, but because of courage, unity, and heart. The twin suns rose higher, illuminating the city and the planets beyond. The future was bright, full of possibility, and defined not by fear or obligation, but by choice, love, and determination. Princess Alara had chosen her people, her heart, and her vision. And in doing so, she had reshaped the galaxy, proving that humanity, united and fearless, could carve its own destiny among the stars. The crown no longer weighed on her, it symbolized hope, strength, and the power of a heart that dared to choose both love and duty. And with Kale by her side and humanity rising around her, Alara knew that the story of their triumph was only beginning.